All right, hi everyone. Sorry I'm a bit late. I said 9:30. It's now 9:36. It's some challenges. My poor old daughter's struggling with some teething. So for those of you that are daddies and mummies, you obviously know this is can be quite tough. But hi everyone, nice to see you. We've got Tank Commander Glenn and also Star Captain 007. So thanks for joining us straight off the bat, which is fantastic to see you. So today we're going to talk about the released Ratlings or the previewed Ratlings. And then also the Tempestus Scions, the Aquilions, and then also my performance at LGT. Tank Commander Glenn, good to see you as well. I was just saying my daughter's having some real bad teething problems. I think her molars are coming out. She's having absolutely shite of the time. So hopefully she won't cry. But anyway, here we are. So as I said, we're going to talk about the Rattling Snipers and the Tempestus Aquilions, and also my performance at LGT, and I had a 50-person tournament that happened in London last weekend. So I was actually a bit surprised with the Ratlings, to be honest. I think I was not expecting these at all to get new miniatures, because actually the metal ones, to be honest, actually aren't too bad. They're bloody ancient old little metal sculpts, but I reckon the actual old Ratlings look quite nice. Actually, I've got 10 of them. I only ever play 5. But it's quite surprising, quite nice to see the Ratlings get a bit of a glow up, because I definitely think there's some interesting lore you could definitely play around with. And I think this one here, which is going to be a big base, hopefully you can see it on screen, is more like a commemorative piece. It's probably more like something you get when you subscribe to Warhammer Plus. You get the miniatures every 12 months, and they don't actually usually come with rules. So I think this is more of a display piece, but it is super nice to see these two little mischievous devils enjoying an ammo tin full of grenades and chicken and wine, and then obviously scoping out the next target for a kill shot. So pretty interesting to see them get that glow up. So I wasn't expecting it at all, so it's quite interesting. And then obviously also you've got then the actual kill team boxes. Super cool to see also the tank busters getting some new models. And I just love the idea of the tank busters, the idea that they just go up and just like use a sledgehammer into a tank with explosives, which obviously blows them up, but also blows up the tank. So very, very orky. Some cool looking miniatures for the orcs. And then very surprising to see 10 Rattling snipers going to appear in Kill Team. So I don't play Kill Team, but I've got no idea what kind of rules I have for these little devils. Now, when they transfer this to 40k, like they've done for the Aquilion Tempestus Scions, it'll be very interesting to see how they do it. Because obviously with the Aquilions, as we'll quickly touch on in a second, is that they're pretty streamlined. They've streamlined the potential rules. So things like the melter mine on the Aquilion doesn't get a rule, nor did a hot shot las guns dual pistol. They could be twin linked. It feels like they really dumbed down the rules compared to what they are in Kill Team. And I don't play Kill Team, but I imagine they've got a lot more rules in Kill Team than they do in 40k. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage these guys for 40k. Because obviously the current rules, they've got stealth, they can move, shoot, move, but only in your shooting phase, and their toughness to stealth. They're basically made of tissue paper, so when they get targeted, they disappear. But obviously infiltrate is helpful in our index. So what they get them, who knows? So I put a little poll up on my on the channel, and basically you in the audience voted for lone op. That makes sense. And then these are just my ideas, yeah. So lone op is obviously pretty obvious. They're going to be untargetable outside of 12. Enhanced sniper rifles, so maybe dev wounds, going back to a 9th edition sniper rifles. And then other ideas I got is like mortal wounds to units within 6 inches from booby traps, which I think one of the GSC Genestealer Co-op miniatures has the models. I think that was in the index rules. Maybe they could redeploy Deep Strike like Gaunt's Ghost, and maybe they can also fire Overwatch stratagems for free. It has been confirmed somewhere in here from a Kill Team point of view that they will get, Scarper. So shoot, scout, and scarp, whatever the current rule is, they'll probably get the same thing. So obviously this is for Kill Team, but the idea that they can basically, move out of sequence. So they'll probably get the same thing. Probably can, move, shoot, move, lone op, sniper rifles with dev wounds. And I reckon also it'd be a bit of a shame if they don't give this little booby trap dude, some sort of mortal wounds. If you come within 6 inches on a 4-up, you suffer a mortal wound, that type of thing. Because this is really fun. They look absolutely cool. So these little gremlins running around causing trouble, stealing things from other soldiers in the wider regiment, and also taking out enemies with headshots. And one thing I think would be good to see as well is some lore supporting these little miniatures. I've only read personally snippets of them. One on some Ratlings on Cadia when the planet was invaded, and obviously them doing some good work there. But you don't hear a lot about the Ratlings. I guess it'd be quite hard to write big stories about them, but it'd be good to see them pop up in more of the novels to give them a bit more of a feel, give you a feel of like what they're all about, besides being quite sneaky and quite mischievous and also very good snipers. Yes, and Watchdog Van Etten in the chat is saying hopefully not locked to 10 models, because yeah, I mean, if you've got 10 of these little guys, 10 probably feels like a lot. 5 is fantastic. I think the current Ratlings at 5 for 60 points feel overcosted, but they have got some utility. As I said, early infiltration, or early, infiltrate full stop is very powerful. And the only other options we've got is Scorched Ghosts or Sly Marbo, which are quite expensive because they're characters. So having some Ratlings to do that would be quite good. But I reckon you'll be stuck to 10, James, Watchdog Van Etten. Because obviously with the Aquilion Tempestus Scions, we're stuck with 10. We can't break it down to 5. And the other thing of note, I think, will be they'll definitely be on the bigger bases, because I think all Kill Team kits are on 27.5. I think, pretty confident. So they'll obviously have a bigger footprint as opposed to their current base size, which is the 25, I think it is, whatever it is. But yeah, so it's great to see. There's some fantastic character to these. Little Doggo, maybe Doggo does mortal wounds. They look really cool. I think they look really, really nice. Some great detail with the Vox Thief, Mr. Sniper Man, Raider, and this is giving Rain and Rust. Remember Rain and Rust, the kit you could buy, the two that work together, and one had like a grappling hook, and if they could both send the same target, you got like +1 anti-ballistic skill. So that's almost a nod towards Rain and Rust. And then this guy is hilarious. He's meant to be the bomb man. You can see actually, he's lost an arm because, as you probably know from it, in the military, the EOD experts, they often wear like these massive suits, and the only thing exposed is their hands. And it looks like they've got the same idea. He's got his hands and his feet because he's a little Ratling. Looks like he's also lost an arm as well. But yeah, some really nice character in here. Great to see this. I think we can't complain. We're definitely seeing a lot of new stuff coming through for Guard. And also watched Tank Commander Glenn in the chat, one of my patrons, saying old indexes of a few short stories about Ratlings. Yeah, nice. I'll pull up, I think I've got 8th and 6th edition, even 3rd. I'll pull up the books and have a look because it's super cool. Right, then on to the Aquilions. So I did a video about these midweek, and basically the data sheet is out. I would say, and I'm going to see what Watchdog Van Etten, one of the patrons, said, because he played them recently. But again, fantastic detail. These look absolutely awesome. A lot of detail. The only thing, and I've read 1 or 2 articles about painting them, is that this will take this is a lot of painting. Typical Astra Militarum, the miniatures are tiny because they're humans, and these guys look to have a fair bit of detail. Although I'd say, because I'm painting up, you might be able to see in the background, I'm painting up some more Scions, and it just reminds me of how much detail there is. But I think, I've actually bought 10. I've found on eBay for £40 for 10, which is very, very reasonable for 10 from someone selling them out there. So they're arriving next week, which will be exciting. But to be fair, they don't look anything abnormal for us Guard players because they're used to painting little tiny Cadians. So these guys and girls don't look too bad. But I'll read the chat in a second. But it feels like with their rules, they're just going to be more of an action unit, or denying your opponent secondary. Will they do loads of damage output? Not really, because you can only take one. You can only take one special weapon, and that's a nice. I didn't say that before. That's a carbine melter. Yeah, cool. They've done a good job there because from my army days, carbines typically have a shorter barrel out the end, which often makes the thing super loud because it's closer to your face and the muzzle suppressor is quite small, or the buttstock is retractable. So obviously they're giving this a wooden buttstock, but a lot of rifles like the M4 or even the light machine gun has a retractable buttstock, so you can actually make the weapon quite short, which obviously helps if you're doing parachute work. And it's great to see they've got a carbine melter here. So again, I think we are quite fortunate at the moment, getting lots of nice new miniatures. we can't complain. We've got these are now available. We've got little Ratlings coming up for Christmas. And then obviously all the rumors about the Deathcore Creek getting some plastic miniatures. But my bet, this is an outside bet, is we may get some Catagens, I would say, because the Deathcore's already got plastic, so why give them more plastic? Give the Catagens plastic, but who knows? Who knows what we'll see. But yeah, so let's read. So Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten had. So you had some Aquilions kill stealth suits, breaches, deny 3 points, and score 6 by themselves today. Definitely recommend a score them. Nice. So from what he's saying, it's basically looking like, you know, they're all about scoring and stuff. Yeah, definitely. If we had some, resculpts for the Catagens, would be fantastic because they are by far the oldest kit in our available range. So, yeah, some great stuff to see. We've got a lot of options coming. You can. I think I get the impression the Hive Storm Kill Team box hasn't sold that well, so you probably can pick up someone selling a second half of the box set on eBay, or worst case, if you want to go Harvey's with a friend who collects the Flyboy towel, then it can easily be done. The Vespid Stingwings. And what's interesting, actually, sorry to stay on this point, the Vespid Stingwings, they can be 5 models individually, 2x5, but we're stuck with 10. Although that being said, I think five of these guys is like 70 points. So their weapons are more damage. They've got a lot more output. They seem quite aggressive overall compared to the Scions, but you can take 5 of those versus you got to take 10 of our guys. But the points obviously reflect that these seem to be a lot more deadly than our little humble humans. So cool. So very exciting stuff out there. Definitely be a lot of fun to paint up some new miniatures when they will come out. So now on to the London Grand Tournament. So LGT was 850 players this year, which was amazing. My first time playing, I was very lucky. It was 15 minutes from my house, so no excuses this year. I'll definitely be going next year. Again, it'll also be very close. Fantastic environment, had a great time. It's the first one I've been to, probably. It's the biggest tournament I've been to. I think I've been to like a 600-person one before, but this is definitely the biggest single player. And I had an amazing time. I had the dream of going 3-2, and spoiler, I didn't go 3-2. I went worse than that, not better. But definitely not a lot. I thought of sort of reflecting overall on, I think, where I'm as a player. I think I need to be a bit more realistic on my expectations, because it was a great experience, but I think I've learned sort of what I need to improve a fair bit more. So the list I took was not an Armored Sentinel. It was instead Sly Marbo, who is 65 points without caps lock. So this was the list I took. I took only 3 characters, being Lord Solar with Cadian Command Squad and Sly Marbo. It's then 3 Jungle Fighter blobs of 10 and Cadian Shock attached to the Cadian Command Squad and Lord Solar. Now the idea there was that you could stick to your home objectives and then they could push forward and obviously do stuff in the rest of the game. And they definitely did that throughout my 5 games to varying degrees of success. Chimera with double flamers, 6 Bulgrams and 2x3, 2x5 Scions, some Kazkin, Scout Sentinel, Lemon Rust Battle Tank, Exterminator Lemon Rust, and 2 Rogal Dawns with heavy stubbers all round, so finishing all around for 2,000 points. Now let me get to sort of reflecting on the units in the games. This list overall, and I'll kind of touch on some of the other lists because I know what some of the winning lists look like. This is quite a typical, in inverted commas, archetype. Scions, some form of Scions. Bulgrams, obvious. Lord Soul is pretty obvious. Dawns, yes, pretty common. And Lehman Russ is quite common. And where the sort of flair occurs and your creativity from a list building point of view is the battle line stuff you take and around the edges. So so let's get on to the games. So if I've got where is the window? Here it is. Okay, thank God. Right. So game 1 was Terraform and Swift Action. Terraform is where basically if a unit performs an action on objective and survives is an action, you basically score 2 points onwards. So if you do that early, it's just cash money or game. Then my first opponent was actually a chap called Alex, who I know very, very well. And he plays Thousand Suns. So we both joked that the chances of playing someone in 850 players when you know about 10 people was, I think, about, math helped me, 1% maybe. Yeah, it's a 1% chance of playing someone you knew, based on the fact I know about 10 people. Yeah, rough math. So basically had a good laugh. Now, his Thousand Suns list had Magnus. It then had about 5 or 6 squads of Rubric Marines, all with Flamers, with loads of characters attached. It was then 2 squads of Cultists, 2 of the Demon things, a little like mini demons with a 5-up Feel No Pain, which makes them crazy resilient, and 2 of the Vortex Demon things, the big monster thing that can shoot and do mortal wounds. So as I looked at that list, obviously, because this was the first game, you see your first opponent about 2 or 3 days before, so you've got loads of time to think about it. And basically, I'd played Thousand Suns before and done pretty well. But the one thing about Alex's list is the Flamers were scary, because you had basically 5 squads, 4 Flamers, 20 Flamers, plus all the characters had like their own mental Flamers. So Overwatch was a real problem for me, particularly if you're dropping in dues to basically do actions. So that definitely was something I was worried about. But I went first, and basically how the game sort of played out is I was off to a massively strong start. And Alex actually said about turn 3 that he wasn't feeling that confident. Now, that changed. But basically, I think a crucial point as I reflect on the game where I probably lost this game was turn 1. I pulled no prisoners, and basically thinking I need to get as many points on the board as quick as possible. He had scout moved some cultists from his objective here basically onto as close to possible as his objective. So I'd scout moved a Chimera, and basically because I went first turn, it basically busted its way up here with move. It then debust the jungle fighter to try and hold the objective, and also I hustled up 3 Bolgrams. I then basically flamed the cultists with a Chimera. Didn't kill all of them. Wasn't confident I'd kill them with tank shot. So then I charged in also the Bolgrams. Basically from there, I'd committed a lot of resources already in turn 1. Now, what else was here was the jungle fighters, as said there, and a single Lehman Russ hiding in this terrain piece. He then basically marched around Magnus, so I think flew around here, blew up the Chimera, and then killed the Bolgrams. So turn 1, I'd scored 2 points for the loss of 2 units at about 160 points. So it did obviously hold him up, because I think I actually held this maybe for longer than I should have, because obviously to deal with them. But basically what happened is by the time we got to about turn 3, this side of the board, the right-hand side, he completely owned that side of the board, because all my units died because that Lehman Russ there got blown up by Magnus. And basically what happened is he then also deep strike in his second Vortex Beast down here. And basically for most of the game, he basically owned this part of the board. He had loads of units screwed in the backfield. I couldn't deep strike anything in there. But it was a really sort of backwards and forwards game. We thoroughly, honestly, both enjoyed the game, because it felt like it was on a knife edge all game. And then basically turn 5, this is where basically I was tactical and tried to think about things. As I looked at what cards he had left to go, and he had no prisoners. And I was like, crap, if you get no prisoners, there's so many single models floating around, you're just going to max it off the bat. So I actually tried to do things like I basically went and hit as much as possible back here, because he actually had a Vortex Beast in here, another one over there. A Vortex Beast in here, which I managed to kill, but then Magnus, who can double move up to 20 inches, I think. He can get anywhere he wants. So basically, I charged in the remnants of a command squad in here to try and suicide them into the Vortex Beast. But as expected, basically, he drew in his last hand 2 cards. He burnt 1, and then he pulled no prisoners. I was like, oof, okay. So from all of that, let's look at the actual score sheet. You can basically see that I lost this by exactly 2 points. So you can see the primary was actually backwards and forwards. Yeah, okay. So that's right. I terraformed. Did I terraform to? No, I must have held. Anyway, so basically you can see it's even. And then basically the last is he scored 5 on no prisoners. And if he hadn't scored no prisoners, he would have got something else. So he had Storm Hostile, which at that point was very hard for him to get. But if he hadn't have got no prisoners, or if he only had killed, say, 1 or 2 units, we actually I would have won or drawn the game. Because if he only killed 2, would have scored 3, which we would have both drawn. Obviously, if he got something different, he wouldn't have scored as strongly. So I was, yeah, I mean, this type of loss, you can't be angry. I did obviously reflecting later that basically going for that kill score against the cultists was probably a bit ambitious and a bit aggressive in turn 1. And we did both say that if Magnus wasn't on the board and he had deep strike Magnus or reinforced him, those Bolgrams there would have actually caused him loads of problems, because he only had like lots of flamers would have picked him up maybe, but they wouldn't have crumbled as quickly against Magnus. But basically, I think that's what shaped the game. Is he eventually had more resources than me, because by the time we finished it, I was running out of resources, actually running out of units. But as I said, to lose by 2 points based on the last cards to be drawn against someone you know very well, you can't be unhappy. Yeah, so that was a great game, fantastic game. Really enjoyed it against Alex. Okay, on to game 2, and this was a bit of a bloodbath for me, and I played into Space Wolf Jail, I think that the joke is. Now, this guy, Will, actually had a pretty he only had 2 squads of Wolf Riders, I'm going to call them, don't know what they're actually called. He then had 2 Lancers, Terminators, Assault Space Marines with jump packs and other bits and pieces, including Scouts. Now, I'd never played Space Wolves in 10th edition, and I heard that were pretty bad to play into. And oh my God, they were awful to play into. Now, let's jump ahead. I got my ass absolutely handed to me, 42 to 100. And reflecting, I lost this because because I didn't know what to do against Space Wolves. Now, I actually went first, and also I completely misused my Lehman Russes, and this has got me thinking on the wider list composition, as we'll chat about in a second. But basically, this layout now is quite interesting. That to hold this natural expansion objective feels quite hard, because your opponent can sneak around quite easily, particularly with large vehicles. They can threaten this objective very quickly. So I decided to threaten this objective quite quickly with my Lehman Russ Exterminator, and basically pushed it up. And because we had purged the foe, we score points for killing stuff, I was super keen to get that first kill. And to my luck, I basically shot 5 Space Marines on the objective. There was some sort of infiltration unit, and left a guy alive on 1 wound. So basically, I pushed forward a Lehman Russ Exterminator, basically wasted it on leaving a guy on 1 wound. I've actually fed it then another tank as well, the Lehman Russ Battle Tank, and was using my Lehman Russ Battle Tanks to basically feed him units to basically play into. Now, that was a bit of a folly, obviously, because they're quite expensive in the scheme of things, and his units are equipped to deal with them quite easily. Now, I did actually do a bit of tactical. I know I just screened because he had the Thunderwolf Cavalry, based up here, and I basically had the Scout Sentinel basically park its little bottom right there, and had some Jungle Fighters strung through there. I know they can't go through walls, the Thunderwolf Cavalry, but at least the principle's there. And also put some Jungle Fighters across the board here and down here. However, I left a gap of about 3 inches here, and Will, to his defense, did brief me on all the stuff they can do, but having not seen it before what they can do, I didn't know how to manage it. And there's 2 things I basically stuffed up, is that they've got the Blood Surge rule. So once they're shot by you, they can move up to 6 inches. Now, that's only once per game. And I was thinking it was every time they got shot, like some of the Tyranid models used to be able to do. So I completely misread that, because if I knew that, I would have baited him earlier to make the movement into some junk. But basically, I thought they could do it all game. I then completely misunderstood, and he did say, to be fair to him, is that they can auto-advance 9 inches, not 6, 9. It's a stratagem. And then, given he took a certain army detachment, they can also charge as well. So they can move, advance, and charge. And basically, what happened is he moved a squad of 5 of them, which were based here, and a little nice daisy chain all the way down here, and basically stand 2 inches away from my Rogel Dawn. And at that point, I was like, holy crap, how do they get this so quick? Now, what I didn't know as well is on the charge, they get +1 to damage, and I think also maybe lethals or something, but basically on the charge is where the money is at. Now, it was just comical because he rolled all of the Wolfen's wolf attacks, and at that point I had like 4 wounds in the Rogel Dawn, and I was like, is that it? And he's like, no, man, all over again with like the axes. And I was like, holy crap, like they just put out so much damage. It was just comical. Basically, I think we got to like turn 3, and I'm just like, look, man, let's just, I think we played out turn 4, then we just basically called it because I was pretty much tabled. But I lost this basically because I hadn't played Space Wars before, and then also Purge the Foe was just horrible, awful. Because Thunderwolf Cavalry, as you know, I'm just going to check the chat. They got a 4+ invul save. They've got 4 wounds, not 3. 4, I think, is a crucial breakpoint because it makes a lot of weapons inefficient. You know, Rogel Dawns will flat through damage. It takes you 1 1/3. It's highly ineffective. Yeah, and then he had a stratagem as well where he could -1 to hit and to wound in one stratagem. I was like, fuck, man, like this is amazing. And again, lovely guy, Will, but they felt very, very strong. So you can see I got absolutely massacred on the primary. I basically couldn't kill anything. And then, yeah, by the end of it, I just had no models left. So obviously he just tabled me. But that was hard. That was really brutal. I think this was due to lack of experience with Space Wars, and that again goes back to what I'm going to think about what it takes to go 3-2 in a tournament, and definitely a lot of guard plays did do that, but not Jeff. Let me just check the chat for any commentary. So we've got Tank Commander watched on Venice is saying super close in 1,000 Suns, so not too bad. And then he's played Wolf Gel is bananas, man. 4+ invul saves and 4 models with a bit of speed is nuts. And your Dawns, yeah, exactly, yeah. Yep. And then I got Brendan Little, nice one, Choco. So any Australians who are in the army will know what that means because he wasn't a Choco. Cool. Okay, now on to game 3. So take on hold, nice and simple. 6 objectives, piece of cake. However, played at the Death Guard, lovely guy called Dave, who's also got his own channel as well. And the list was basically blobs of Plague Marines in Rhinos, 2 squads of cultists. It's then Death Shroud Terminators ×2, various other knickknacks, and then the centerpiece was a Chaos Knight, a massive Chaos Knight. Now, I played Death Guard once or twice. I need to keep away from them, but they aren't super stupid strong, and you can definitely deal with them once they're in the open. But basically, the overall structure of the game is he went first, and he had his cultists who can infiltrate or scout move, I think. And a super sneaky thing he did is they can sticky an objective if they control it in the command phase. So given they started the game on this objective, I think he actually strung that across 2 objectives here, is that given he started the game on the objective, he then basically moved him and advanced him to put him like a little wall of bodies along here. Is at the beginning of the game, he actually held all the primary objectives in the center, yeah, because he had some dudes on here. He had some dudes on here with a Rhino. Because he had that scout move and the infiltrate or whatever it was, he basically held these 2 objectives here. So I'm like, holy crap, I can't let him score 15 straight away. I need to do something about it. So like this, again, is a bit of a reflection on me mismanaging things, is that I managed to deal with this down here easy. Moved the tumor up, debust some jungle fighters. They actually charged into the Rhino, which was camped here, and wrapped it up to try and control the debust of the boys inside. I then Scout moved the Scout Sentinel on here, OC2, to try and contest against OC5, which didn't work. And again, wasting resources is that I had Sly Marbo, and I thought I'd use them as a little hero model who'll basically move here, shoot, and then charge these guys and basically kill them all because they're just cultists. But then Dave had the good decision basically to overwatch with the cultists who had Flamers, Stubbers, and I think they also get lethal hits as well, I think, because they're Death Guard. And they killed Sly Marbo. So straight off the battle of 65 points. I should have actually taken it back, because we're playing a pretty relaxed game with this guy, super nice dude. He probably would have let me taken that back and say, I'm not going to charge, I wanted to go through the wall. But basically, I wasted Sly Marbo. He held there. I actually took this one off him. And here I had to basically commit, which was okay, some jungle fighters around here that had to go around here, basically charge into the unit that way, and actually had to waste a Lehman Russ battle tank coming out here to basically charge into them that way and basically finish with its arse basically touching it. So we did talk it through, but I was actually quite janky with the way I moved that Lehman Russ to basically charge into them whilst holding that objective. And interestingly, these jungle fighters here who charge into combat with these cultists consistently scored me primary for about 3 turns. Now, over all of it, it definitely felt like he held more than me, but we definitely it was quite an even game. VIPs in this game with the Bolgrams, 6 Bolgrams here just took so much damage. Like they just they just got slapped around loads by some death traps, but they couldn't get through them actually. And interestingly, where he put his knight was here. And as I learned, having never played knights in 10th edition, is that when they're behind terrain like this, they're fully obscured, which makes sense, and they can't see through. But as per, I think, a balanced data set recently, is when they touch this terrain piece or touch any terrain piece, you can see over the terrain piece. So again, good learning for me. So I think only about turn 3 popped it out. And basically this thing just shot everything it saw, which was fun to see. Now, I don't know which model of knight it was, Chaos Knight it was, but it had a rapid fire D6 plus 3 battle cannon. So within 72, it's firing D6 plus 3 blasts, 10, 1, 3. And if it's within 36, it's rapid fire. So you're going 2d6 plus 6 with blast. I think it also got lethals. No, it had a free reroll. But interestingly, it didn't win him the game, that's for sure. But what won him the game, I think, was his early part, because I foolishly should have turned off this objective with a Catagen Jungle Fighters. That would have evened the score up. And even things like I did actually take his home field off him once with the Kazkin shooting some Poxwalkers, charging onto the objective and basically taking it off him. But as we go look at the scores, it was a relatively close game. So you can see the primary 45 to 30 is what we both maxed. We both maxed secondaries, interestingly. I definitely think, I think my cards are pretty good overall. I mean, broadly speaking, I had some pretty good cards. I think we both did, to be fair. But basically the primary is where it got me. So you can see, if I turned off that one on the top left earlier, or turned it off at all, sorry. If I turned this one off earlier, that would have been 5 points left. It would have been on 90. Maybe I would have held it, so I would have scored 15 turn 2, and maybe even turn 3 as well. You can see my primary dropped significantly because I was only holding my home objective. Now I was bummed by this because this was obviously the tipping point of going 3-2 versus 2-3. But again, great game, great guy David. It felt like a pretty close game throughout, but I think I probably misplayed. Obviously, managing this objective and also having to commit a Lehman Russ in the open again was just silly. I should have repositioned my Jungle Fighters in a position to obviously deal with all the objectives, and that's definitely some thinking I'm taking into my next games. And also a team tournament in November. So, yeah, some good work. Thank you, Tank Commander Glenn. Spicy. Yes, it was spicy. Yeah, Bolgrim's doing some work. Definitely going to have to see the... Yeah, so, well, that's the thing. So Bolgrim's, and I'll come on to it in a second, the other people who played Astra Militarum, which were quite a few, are definitely going to get nerfed. I have this really bad feeling. And the thing is that they're not actually crazy. Okay, they're very, very good at standing in the front of things, but their output is very unreliable. I definitely felt throughout all the games, they're not there about output. Obviously, some units, they'll just smash their way through. But, against Space Marines, they've got a 4+ save, and that is obviously a flip of a coin. They can either live or die because you've got 2 win Space Marines, they crumble. But they're definitely going to go up in points. I reckon they'll be quite aggressive with it as well. Right, so day 2, round 4, and at this point, this is all, I was having a good chat to Adam, one of my battle brothers who plays Black Templars, is that it's okay. This is me being all grown up now, 40 years old, is that it's okay to be a bit negative after a run of losses. It's only okay for 24 hours though. So he said to me, you've got until Sunday night, and depending how you go on Sunday till Monday night to feel salty about it, because it's natural. So I was pretty nervous at this point, in the sense that if I didn't get this, I was like, well, I'm going to do 1-4, which is absolutely dog shit. Sorry for swearing. Now I went to the Cal Space Marines, and actually the point was we were bottom. We were like literally the last row of tables. So you've been to a tournament. As you progress through the tournament, the best of the best go to the top. Table 1, the worst of the worst go towards table 475. I think I was like 420. So getting pretty close to being bottom tables. Now, Chris had an interesting list. Chaos Space Marines, the Renegade Raiders, something like that. 2 Vindicators, a Land Raider, some Warp Talons, the Chosen with Abaddon. And I did ask some of my mates who know them pretty well, and they said it was a bit of an interesting list. That their ability is they can move, they can advance and shoot, and I think also charge. But definitely Chris, I think, probably wasn't hyper experienced because he basically gave himself a massive car park for about 3 turns. He had all these vehicles sort of stacked up in here, and the Land Raider, just like the Rogal Dawns, can only deploy here. So I basically knew what he was going to do. Now, I'm trying to think back because this game actually I won it, so that was good. But I think I just outplayed this poor fella because I don't think he was super experienced. He put his units in weird places, but but then the Vindicators, they were just like awful, like really swingy. If you play Demolisher Lehman Russes, you know this, like D6 +3, they can just whiff completely. I think he had two Predator Annihilators with the auto cannons and las cannons. But I had a Dawn basically. I think it reinforced its way in here. And I think he put a Vindicator into it. Did like 4 wounds. It just all bounced. He just missed it. Combination of not rolling lots of shots, been there, done that. Didn't get as many hits as he'd hoped. But with a Dark Pact, he got Dark Pact is you get to choose sustained, and then basically he didn't get any 6s to hit, so there's no sustained. And then basically, so many of them wounded. I got a 4-up save, and then he did 4 damage or something. So Vindicator's like, oh man, like he did roll pretty awful, but I was like, oh, that just feels like good old days of 9th edition with the Lehman Russ Demolisher cannons, been very swingy. But it's quite hard to sort of pinpoint a point because I think I don't know because he kind of tried to hold this with vehicles. He sent the Land Raider down here. Oh, and that's right, that's right. I reinforced the second Rogal Dawn and basically reinforced it in his backfield. And I was like, this should not be happening. I shouldn't be able to reinforce a Rogal Dawn into his backfield. Blasted all these poor dudes on the home objective. And started smashing up the Land Raider. And then he had to reverse back his Vindicator here, which did like 3 wounds against the Rogal Dawn. I blew that up in response. But yeah, quite a good win for me. I was very lucky. Poor old Chris had a bit of a tough time. So this was obviously Burden of Trust, but outdid him on the primary, significantly challenged him on the primary. I think by the end of it, he only held his back objective with some cultists to stick in it, but then the Rogal Dawn came and they just blew it right up. So yeah, definitely felt good to do that, but obviously poor Chris had a tough tournament, I think, overall, the poor fella. But tournaments are tournaments, not meant to be easy. Yes, and then now last game, Scorched Earth, classic old whatever this one's called, it's just a diagonal one, and I was playing into World Eaters. So this lovely chap Matt had Angron, 2 rhinos with dudes inside, 2 Forge Fiends, and then various 8-bound, super 8-bound, chainsaw dudes, that type of thing. Now, I played these guys before, and I had an awful time. Angron blew up a Storm Sword in one strike, and I got tabled basically. But having just played Space Wolves Wolf Jail, I was like, right, I know what to do, and I hope I go first. And I went first, so lucky me. So basically, what I did there, it was quite funny. I had a line of jungle fighters down the board. So I had again Scout Sentinel here, just standing as a roadblock. Jungle fighters an inch off the wall there. Jungle fighters basically along here, and jungle fighters along there. And I think a Chimera here. No, something else was stood there in the way. And this poor old guy Matt basically spent 2 turns just killing all my chaff. However, it was actually a very fair backwards and forwards game. He had all the 8-bound dudes standing there, and I was crapping myself. We've also Angron sat there as well. And I asked him, how far does Angron move? And he says, I think he can move 12. And then if he rolls certain Angry God dice, he can advance and charge. So I was like, right, I'm going to be all tactical and put 6 Bulgrams scattered along this distance here. And I advanced in my movement. So they basically were stood like in a little conga line, covering up to about here. It was quite funny actually, because then he rolled the angry dice, and then he rolled a 6 to advance, and then she just picked up Angron, picked him up and plonked him right in front of my last block, and I was like, oh, okay, that was a good idea. And then there was a Rogal Dawn, I was like, uh-oh. And then so okay, being serious, basically quite an even game, but my early ball control really pushed him back, and we'll check the scores in a second where I won, thankfully for me. I think I just had the early lead because by the time we got into turn 4, Angron and he had basically chopped in half a Rogal Dawn, and I keep forgetting how wildly powerful he is. He's got, you know, like, I don't know, like 10 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling at strength 14, AP 4, D6 plus 2 damage. Like, it's just crazy. D6 plus 2 damage on an axe. He's a Primax, so it makes sense. But he's got like, you know, lasgun axe hits. It's just wild. And then basically, I think in the later parts of the game, I actually was running out of resources. But because I'd scored so strongly to start, I think we'll check in a second as I basically got the game. Now, interestingly, I'm reflecting is he blew up this Rogal Dawn, and then decided to go down this way and go and chase after like he got marked for death actually. So I put a Rogal Dawn marked for death, and he chased that down here. But what would have been better to do actually probably could this objective here, because I basically put on there Sly Marbo, some leftover space, leftover Catadan Jungle Fighters, and the Kazkin as well. And Kazkin, I definitely kept reinforcing them. Don't forget that. But he probably could have steered the game a bit better if he'd gone that way. But he basically chased the killing. So from all that, I basically won this, you know, by 12 points. And you can see the primary is where I had him. Yeah, so the primary 5-5. So that means if I just think. Yeah, that means basically all he held was his home objective. Because I think even here I pushed him off there with Bolgrams, and I think Lehman Russ as well. I can't remember actually, but you can obviously the primary is where I got it, 45 to 35, and then obviously with the secondaries, it's tit for tat. 34, 32 is not a big difference. But yeah, so got the 2-3 with a very narrow loss to Thousand Suns against Alex. Again, very close to a draw. So I kind of feel my performance has basically stayed the same. I haven't got worse, I haven't got better. And as we'll sort of talk about the list and then overall look at some other players in the tournament, is that I think I have a lot of work to do ever to get to 3-2. I think I have to be quite realistic with that. So let's just check the chat. So Tank Commander Glenn is asking what's my hopes and dreams for the points balance data set here. I don't know. And then Tank Commander Glenn, thank you. And there is Battle Brother Adam King, who is going to get, by the way, Adam King painted me 6 Bolgrams because it's going to be bothered. So I'm going to get a nameplate and call him Conscript Bolgram Adam King. King, basically. So Game 4 is definitely a player skill thing. Okay, yeah, so Adam plays Black Templars, and Adam was saying in Game 4 against Chaos Space Marines, it was a very good list, like quite a well-optimized list, but definitely poor old Chris wasn't as skilled as I was at this point of his playing career. So, okay, now let's look at the lists. So, as I keep saying, there are points due soon. I was expecting them to come out last week, but as per some of the stuff on the Warcom website, they're saying at end of the month. So I think that makes, well, actually, if you just reflect on what they're doing, they just released a new Kill Team box. They've just released Age of Sigma. And something I keep saying to a lot of my friends out there is that I think we overestimate how big the GW rule team is. I reckon it's quite a small number of people, and they're just too busy releasing new stuff. So that would kind of make sense. Well, they're waiting because they're just so busy with workload. Look at all these new miniatures. So, but in the current state, I'm definitely going to drop Sly Marbo. Obvious. He's cool, but he doesn't do enough. Now, Jungle Fighters and Cadian Shock. I'm probably going to swap 10 Jungle Fighters for some Cadian Shock because that objective sticky, I think actually, and again, a lot of you out there who watched and subscribed to my videos have said try Cadian Shock, and I've kept dismissing them. But I think objective sticky actually has got some merit. It's very niche uses, but as I experienced against David in Game 3, where he objective stickied both of these before the game even began. And I know you can't do that because Katie can't infiltrate, but that just showed me the power of sticky objectives. And I mean, you probably all know this, but it's something that we can't forget. Now, then the other stuff, I think they just have to stay. They're just too good. I mean, if you don't take them, and some people don't and still win tournaments, you're probably very, very good. But if you're not, and you're not an amazingly strong player like I am, you need them because they just do something that nothing else in the book can do, in the index can do. Stand on objectives and don't die. That is just, and a lot of other armies don't have that, but they've got other tools. So I think I think even if they went up by 5 points, I'd still be keeping all of them because they're just so good. Now, one I'm definitely going to take out, which is interesting, is the Kazkin. So I found these to be actually not as good as I'd hoped. So I put it down to the fact that I get rerolls. So obviously you can rapid fire, you can give them +1 to hit, so they're hitting on 2s. But from Mike's, this was just bizarre because they put a lot of DAC into a lot of infantry targets or non-monster in vehicle, and they didn't guarantee them to die, which was interesting. Numerous times stuff was left alive. A really tough example is against World Eaters. They've got those little like demon things that run around with a 4+ fill no pain, whatever they're called. Now that's crazy, but they should have cleared, but they didn't. They left like a thing on 2 wounds and it re-heals every command phase. So Kazkin actually, I don't think are as good as just 10 Scions. So I'm definitely going to just bin them off. It means I need to paint more miniatures, but that's fine. And basically take 10 Scions because I think re-rolls is better into non-monsters and vehicles because you've got more chance of getting more sixes for lethal hits here. Now, I was very good. I always reinforce the Kazkin. You know, they're still great, but I think reinforcing 10 Scions does basically the same thing. I'd love to hear your perspective, but I think Kazkin I don't know. They just didn't work. They did work for me, but they didn't do as much work as I believe as 10 Scions would. Let me check the chat for any perspectives. Yeah, Tank Commander Glenn. So agreed, struggling with Kazkin. Yeah, it's a shame because they're fantastic. They look great. And yeah, Watchdog Vet and yeah, Deep Strike on the Scions is peak. And just also reading, so Tank Commander Watchdog is saying I've tried bunching. I don't know. So in the chat is saying I should be taking 2x6 as opposed to 6-3-3. So personally, and again, this is maybe I need to change my approach. Is that I like lots of units, and I found 2x3 actually sticks around as long as I need them for. Now, should I change it to 2x6? Maybe, probably. I'll definitely try it out in some other games. But I'm very comfortable with 2x3 and 1x6. But maybe it should be 2x6. Now, then some interesting ones, and this is significantly influenced by what we'll look at in a second from some of the winning lists, is an approach to the Rogel Dawns and the Lemon Rust Battle Tanks. Now, none of the top lists, and we're talking the top players, have Rogel Dawns, which I think is very interesting. Now, that potentially plays into the fact that UK TC terrain, and maybe even the terrain they use in the US for the US viewers, typically is quite dictatorial where you can put your Rogel Dawn. So in this map here, they can either go, I think you can either go here. I can't remember how I managed this, but I think I basically, with my opponent, sometimes they could basically drive through. The sponsons don't count towards the size of the base. But the point of it still is that in a lot of these maps, where the Dawns can go, so in this one, it can deploy here and deploy there. And then it can basically shoot that way, and then obviously it can shoot that way. Now, it can't, for example, Jimmy its way around there, or Jimmy its way around here. And that's obviously, you're not always going to get max move in all games. But maybe as far as the top players are concerned, that is enough to discount the model. Now, 240 points for the amount of DACA it puts out is just wild. Absolutely wild, as you all know. The thing is covered in DACA. It's an amazing shooting phase. You've got loads of dice. And interestingly, I found the 3 heavy stubbers, which are rapid fire 3, that's 18 shots within 18 inches. It's just comical. Like the amount of shots. So they're fantastic. They're a great model. But maybe just one's enough. Maybe one's enough. And maybe then you've got 240 points to reinvest into a third Lemon Rust. But then I don't have it obviously here. But then reflecting on my games where I basically chucked out the Lemon Rust battle tank super early, was I think I need a replacement for that, because that's obviously something I feel comfortable with. And again, doesn't mean that's what you should be doing. But if I like to throw things forward early games, what is a good alternative? And that alternative is Hellhounds. So if I basically, and I've got it in my phone, I don't have it on here, but I have to basically remove a Rogel Dawn. And actually, if you remove a Rogel Dawn, that instantly is 2 Hellhounds there, because 110 points, I think, is a Hellhounds 110 points. That's 220, roughly. And And typically, as you know, in the early parts of the game, your opponent typically, this is the word typical, will have infantry. The early skirmish game is infantry, not vehicles, unless you play knights and it's all vehicles. Stripping cover is also fantastic. But I think 2 Hellhounds is probably better for me to be using to waste than 2 Leman Russ potentially. But yeah, so no, this is obviously pre-balanced data, so we don't know what the points are going to do, but they may obviously change. And one I'm already factoring for, actually, as I said at the beginning part of the live stream, is I've already bought off eBay. Someone was selling 10 of the Aquilion Scions for £40, which is very fair pricing, because I think the Kill Team boxes are about £45. So this person's selling at a good price. So I've already got 10 Aquilions coming. That'll be 90 points, and with the basic let's call them non-jump pack Scions, because as it turns out, they're not actually jump pack Scions, they're just slow descent guys, which is weird. Is their 2,000 points. So this is where I'm currently at. Again, the balanced data slate may introduce a bunch of change. I don't actually know, and no one knows yet, if it'll be a balanced data slate or just a MFM, Minotaurium Field Manual adjusting points. So if it is just points, let's assume the bully boys will go up, the Bulgrams. I'm expecting them to go up by at least 5 points. So if we increase that, that'll be 105, 105, another 5 points, 30, 210. Okay, I need to drop 60 points somewhere. So that would be maybe a Scout Sentinel. So it's not bone crushing, but it is obviously something less. But maybe they won't. Maybe they won't touch Astra Militarum, because broadly speaking is that we feel quite balanced. But having obviously played 40k enough now to sort of know what to look for, is that typically the way GW approaches things is, if something's been played a lot in the competitive scene, they usually cut back on that for whatever reason. And I've just noticed, Watchdog Van Etten has said they're 215, so 230. So I need to make some adjustments. Let me check the chat again. So let's just see. Okay. So Watchdog Van Etten is saying, take 18 Bulgram, it's the blast. I know everyone keeps saying that. Cool. Oh, yep. Tank Commander Glenn is saying Rogaldorns are 5 inches wide, so they can move those gaps. Okay. Okay. Watchdog Van Etten is then saying, with Dawns, either run 2 or 0. With 1, they can just ignore it and kite around. Okay. Oh, I don't know. Yes, I don't know. Right, so let's now go on to the actual results. So let's just check out how this all went. So if I search Astra, now let me just properly, hang on 1 second, viewers. No, I need to display all. I need to show all of the players. And then my little magic trick with Control F should work. So let's just check. So if we search Astra Militarum, there were 46 players, yeah? 46 players. And you can see, it's hard to, I might not be able to see it, but on the side here is all the find points. So there's 46 players. And let's just sort of check out who are some of the best. So we've got a chap called Nassim. He is obviously based in the UK. A very, very strong player. Came 5th. You then got David Gaylard, a Kiwi bloke based in the UK, came 8th. So freaking amazing results here, like hugely powerful results. We then have Rowan, I've seen his name around before, 12th. Matthew, 26. Gustavo, 80, Harley. So if I clickety-click, we've got a lot of players in the top, top 10%, obviously top 10, top 10%. And this is obviously at the top 50%, because we're still above 400, so this top 25%. So, and I think there are about 5% of the player population was Astra Militarum, which is one of the higher on the high end. But some fantastic results here. So a lot of people are doing 3-2. Now, as I said at some point in the video, going 3-2, as I've discovered, is serious business in a tournament. It's like you are a good player. And this is, I think, a bit of an eye-opener to me, is that to go 3-2 in a tournament, you have to be a very strong player. So all these gents and ladies as well are obviously very talented players. Now you can see here, obviously, this chap called Joe went 3-2, and I think I came. Where's Jeff? Oh, he is. There I am, 4-7-1. So 2 wins, 3 losses. And 4-7-1, I think, is top 60% of play, so it's not awful. It's not great, but if I hadn't lost that Space Wolf game so significantly, I'd be pushed up the ranking a bit more. But the point I want to make about when you go 3-2, let's look at the 3-2s, because here, actually, in Adam, he went 2 wins, a draw, and 2 losses. Is that the point I'm making is when you go 3-2, let's scroll up because these are all still. When you go 3-2, suddenly you're in the top 50%, obviously. Now, as I keep saying, I think this is a lot of thinking for me. Is that I think I've got a long way to go 3-2. And I mean, going 4-1 is like you are very, very good at 40k. Now we can always take it a bit negative. Maybe these players they're all playing the best lists, the best armies. I mean, this guy Andy Moore from Beerhammer, which is fantastic, plays Mechanicus. They're not good, and he's gone 4-1. And Robert with Orcs, who aren't amazing at the moment, or Archie, again, we're playing Guard. So yeah, Guard did very well, broadly speaking. We had plenty of players placed in the top 10%, the top 10, and then throughout across, you can see the player population on the right there if it's possible to see in the view, but a pretty good representation. Now, I'm not subscribed to BCP, so I can't see lists when they're old, but I do know, because I watch this quite closely, is Nassim. His lists, and also David, both had 2x6 Bulgrim, no Rogal Dawns, tank commanders, big blobs of Scions, Lemon Rust battle tanks, ×2 at least. And that's where they're thinking that maybe Rogal Dawns aren't where the money at. Now, this all may change, obviously, with the balanced data slate. But tank commanders, I was like, really? Because I watched, actually, Nassim play Lewis. We'll speak about Lewis in a moment in the live stream. Because actually, and this is also the crazy thing about competitive tournaments, is that, so to play this many games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means I think they played a 6th game, and I think also the 7th game Sunday night. And then the top cut was played on the Monday. So as I joke with my battle brother Adam, is that if you're potentially that good and you think you've got a chance of coming in the top 10, and you're playing, say, out of town, does that mean you book 3 days off work and you book a hotel for the 3rd night? But what happens if you don't make the top 10%? Do you just sit around the hotel room all miserable for a day? But I think a lot of these blokes maybe are obviously Londoners, maybe. But, this is just crazy. So they played 5 games amongst us plebs. You can see Nassim's just stomped people all over the place. He's then played 2 games Sunday night and played 1 game Monday. I mean, that's a lot of Warhammer to be playing. But anyway, back to my point about tank commanders. Is they don't have squadron. They don't get lethal hits. But maybe there is a lot of value in just shooting on death, and obviously there is. And then both of these gents use Lemon Rust battle tanks, and I actually found them to be very good because, as I discussed in previous live streams, they don't need orders. They get organic reroll once to hit or full rerolls. And yes, their battle cannon is only AP1, but you've got a las cannon and multi-melters, which are AP4. So get them up nice and personal, close and personal with your enemy. And they actually did great work. And also, I don't know if I actually did it, but I may have Overwatched once or twice with them as well, because you get the organic rerolls. And as per my video about Overwatch, how to use it properly, if you can watch it, please do, because it needs more views, is that when you Overwatch, you want to be doing the stuff that gets rerolls anyway, because you boost the math. So let's just check the chat for any more. So, yeah, Mr. King is saying 18 more Bulgrim, so you can paint me 6 more if you wish. Joking. And Tank Commander Glenn is saying, Gustavo is London-based. He smashed him up a few weeks ago. Great player. Oh, yes. Yeah, cool. But, yeah, so I've got no math behind this, but Gar did very well this tournament. 2 blokes coming in the top 10, multiple players in the top 10%, multiple players top 50%. So will we be nerfed? I think so. That's just the way things go with GW. I expect Bulgrims to go up by at least 5 points. That'll be easy math. Now, I think potentially what could fix them, though, is if they kept the same points cost and moved the 6 up, feel no pain, that would fix them in inverted commas. Now, the -1 damage is one of their written rules, but the 6 up, feel no pain is a universal rule. I think if they remove that, that would actually fix them, because the amount of times you obviously get 4 damage weapons into them. I had it a few times. 3 damage, you roll a single 6, bang, Bogram's alive. You know, freaking awesome. So I think if they remove that, that would help. But then beyond that, I don't know, because I don't feel like we're crazy overpowered. I think we're very balanced at the moment. But again, the GW gods may think otherwise, because maybe we're just too good at the moment. Now, some final call-outs, because it's been an hour, is that I'm actually interviewing on Thursday. Won't be a live stream, Lewis Smith. So I know Lewis very well. I've been playing him since the beginning of 9th, and my win rate against Lewis is 0. I have not won a single game against Lewis Smith, because he is freaking amazing as a player. You can see he placed 4th, which is just bonkers, and he's won several RTs, and he's also placed top 10, top 5 in other tournaments. Now, I'm interviewing him because he's played guard a bit. I want to get his perspective externally on how he thinks about Astra Militarum as an opponent. So maybe a unique way to sort of get a perspective on how we can do better. And then also, I'll probe him a bit to sort of understand how he's become so successful at 40K, because obviously if you're like me, you're an aspiring player, wants to do better, and often the best way to learn is from people who are way better than you. So a bit of an ask from you in the audience is, if you've got any ideas for questions to ask Lewis, please put them in the comments or the chat now, because I'd love to see what you'd like to ask a very, very talented player, because obviously Lewis is very talented and also a fantastic player, very good gent to play into. So yep, so hopefully interesting, as you've heard me speak about the Rattling snipers, what potential rules they may get. And again, as per the audience participation vote, I said here is that, you know, lone op, enhanced sniper rifles with dev wounds maybe. We've got the Aquilion Tempestus Scions, and then we've got Jeff going 3-2.5. Let's agree. No, let's just say 3-2, with 3 losses, 2 wins, of which 1 was a very narrow loss. And as we said, balanced data slate's coming. Who knows what's going to change, but hopefully not too much, because I think we're in a very good place. So thanks everyone for joining in the live stream, and for those who would also be commenting on the video, the live stream in the future. As always, I really appreciate those of you who join the chat, those of you who sponsor me via Patreon or a channel member. And as always, if you enjoy this and want to support me, you can do so by like, comment, or by subscribing. Simply share the video of any of your other friends, pals, or colleagues, etc. If you're feeling super generous, you can join my Patreon platoon, where I actually we'll have a specific miniature with a nameplate dedicated to you, and in the rest of my videos, I'll do a Patreon platoon roll call as well, calling you out. So good night, everyone. Good night, Tank Commander Glenn, Watchdog Van Etten, and Conscript Bolgrim King, who I know in the chat. So all the best, and see you next Sunday. Cheers.